Hello everyone, how's everybody doing? I'm hoping this video finds you all happy and healthy. And in this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the conflict between Goji Man and Vegetable Police because I found it very entertaining. I found Goji Man's video very telling, and his sycophantic, non-critical thinking, clapping CEO fanboy vegans very disappointing. For those of you who have no clue what's going on here, let me try to foreshadow the conflict just a little bit. But there'll probably be a couple of links in my description where you could go watch the respective videos of each one of these men engaged in this conflict for your damn self. Anyway, Vegetable Police is sick. He's been sick for a long time, and he thought the vegan diet could help him cure his gut issues. That didn't happen. And now, according to Goji Man at least, anyway, Vegetable Police ate raw meat, and in 2 days, 95% of his symptoms went away. So Goji Man, the good ethical vegan that he is, came to the rescue with this video and, I don't know, a hypothetical protocol for how to cure Vegetable Police without having him suffer the taste of raw meat. I hope that makes sense. I took out a lot of the parts of Goji Man's video. I'm just going to talk about the ones that I found most fascinating. So, without any further ado, here we go. The disclaimer I found very interesting, especially the last sentence. Look, I understand why people do this, but you need to understand as well. The use, I'm reading the last sentence, of any information provided in this video is solely at your own risk. If you believe that you're right, then you don't need this disclaimer, right? Or at the very least, if you are 100% sure that what you're saying is accurate, true, and correct, and that there's no possibility that you could be wrong, you don't need this disclaimer, do you? Glad we got that cleared up. So here's Mr. Goji Man himself. What I'd like you to notice is his facial features. Note the lack of symmetry in his face, very narrow nose, the eyes pretty close together, not too bad. One ear's over there, the other one's in Kansas. Very narrow nostrils, narrow nose. Looks like he might be a mouth breather, I'm not sure. Tiny lips, narrow lips. Looks like his dental arches are underdeveloped. Very narrow face, small jaw, narrow jaw. Tiny chin, right? Deformed. The reason why the man is busted is because he was either malnourished as a child, didn't get enough animal fats and protein, or he inherited these genes from equally malnourished parents, or at least one of them, or most likely both. I don't know. I don't know his history, but his facial features, we as human beings, and studies have been done on babies that confirm this, we automatically find a face such as his not attractive. We prefer well-developed faces, thus beautiful faces. And I'm not trying to be a dick or anything. This is just the truth. You don't have to like it. We prefer round, well-developed, symmetrical faces with broad, strong features because we have evolved to understand that even on some kind of subconscious level that those are healthy people. All right? And I wonder if because he was malnourished as a child and maybe his DNA started mutating because of a terrible diet, or maybe he inherited already mutated DNA from parents who had a terrible diet. I wonder if maybe there's something in his evolution, if you will, or his genome that predisposes him to even be a vegan in the first place. Could be. Just a theory.
I'm currently studying for a Master's in Nutrition and qualifying as a nutritionist. And next year I'll be studying for a PhD in nutritional science.
Bam! Did you hear that, peasant? Stay in your place, alright? And when the high priest talks, you listen.
So in today's video, I give Vegetable Police an overview of the protocol for fixing his gut issues.
So basically, he wants to confirm what we all already know, that I'm infested. I've tried doing the anti-parasite stuff. I'm not sure we need a test to confirm it.
If you don't test to confirm what you already know, you test to see what strains of yeast and bacteria you have in your gut, because each strain will have a slightly different treatment protocol. So
makes sense, right? The guy knows his stuff.
For example, if you have an overpopulation of the bacillus species in the small intestines, you should probably take berberine to kill off the bacillus.
Take berberine to kill off bacillus. So if you're killing bacteria with berberine, which is plant extract, what would that make berberine? That's right. An antibiotic. All right?
As this has a very high inhibition of those strains, whereas oregano...
Sounds like it's not a broad spectrum antibiotic. I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it definitely targets that specific strain of bacteria, right? Kills it, inhibits it, whatever.
For example, has a much lower inhibition of those species. So Vegetable Police, testing isn't about confirming what you know, it's about giving you a detailed picture of what you don't know and what's going on from how you are digesting foods.
I don't know if you guys caught it, but he also suggested oregano, or as he says it, oregano, which is, little did you know, also an antibiotic. Well, he was saying that it might not work if bacillus is the bacteria that's overpopulating your small intestine.
Gut immunology, the metabolics of your gut, the microbiology, etc., etc. Then and only then can you know what you are dealing with and come up with a treatment plan for a way out. These simple tests which will give you a detailed route out of your health problems for maybe $800. So here Vegetable Police says he's
simple test that will give you a way out. So confident. If you're so confident, why the disclaimer?
Tried it all from juice cleanses, parasite cleanses to detoxes, different dietary approaches, and nothing has worked. Now clearly these approaches will never work because all these juice cleanses and foods are simply loading the body up further with oxalates, histamines and salicylates.
Oxalates, histamines, and salicylates. These, basically what he's saying is that these plants are not going to work. They're not going to solve your gut issues because they contain toxins, right? That's what he's saying. Now, histamines are also present in fermented animal products, no doubt about it, but the reason why a lot of people, one reason, might have a problem dealing with histamines, being able to digest histamines, is because, well, they have gut problems caused by a poor diet and a diet that's high in plants. See, a lot of people don't seem to know this or seem to understand this, but plants are very difficult to digest for us because we're not herbivores, we're carnivores who started eating plants very recently, or a wide variety of plants. We've always eaten some plants, but for 2.6 million years, we were primarily carnivores who maybe ate a certain type of tuber or a certain type of fruit that we found 2 or 3 months out of the year when the ground wasn't frozen rock solid in our specific geographic area, right? But now with the advent of agriculture and globalism, we're able to get any kind of plant from anywhere in the world, and this had not been so throughout our evolution. Okay? So while we might be able to deal with a small amount of a certain kind of plant, we're not all able to process and digest a wide variety of plants that come from all over the world because evolutionarily we were never presented with that sort of challenge. This is a very new thing for us, which is why people come out looking busted if they eat a whole bunch of foreign foods, basically. All right? So histamines, if you have healthy levels of stomach acid and your gut is healthy, you'll be able to deal with histamines in your food. Oxalates and salicylates, those are just bad. Those are just bad, bad, bad for you. And they could be, this isn't, this nutrition is a very flawed science. There's a lot we don't know. We don't even know what a vitamin is. We don't even know what that is. We think we haven't even discovered all the vitamins, you know what I mean? For starters. But Goji Man won't tell you that. But it's likely that vegetable police's gut issues have something to do with oxalates and salicylates in the first place. Maybe grain and Coca-Cola and all kinds of other crap, right? But that's that.
So your gut is already struggling and you are simply throwing fuel onto the fire. Throwing fruits and vegetables and juices blindly at a problem will never fix the issue.
So he has gut problems, right? And Goji Man, the vegan doctor wannabe, nutritionist, is telling him that plants and fruits ain't gonna help you. That's what he said. That's what he just said, right? Later on in the video, he'll tell you that he'll acknowledge the fact that meat helped him, right? And he just told you, fruits and veggies, they ain't gonna help you. You have to design a specific program. You have to approach this very carefully. We have to do a stool sample, blood test, or whatever we got to do. We have to get to the bottom of this. We have to be very scientific and specific. We have to find a tailor-made solution just for you so that one day again you're able to eat plants. Because if you just eat plants, you're going to mess yourself up even more. But if you just eat meat, you'll be all good. As long as you don't go back to eating plants.
I want to cover off some of your comments about fermented foods because it's really, really important for you and everyone else with gut issues to understand what I'm about to say. So
Vegetable Police was, using fermented foods, looking to repopulate his gut with beneficial bacteria to solve his gut issues, right?
Fermented foods and most probiotics are very high in histamine. So Vegetable Police, because of your gut issues, you can't break down the histamines properly. So clearly, if you throw histamine-rich foods into your gut, more fuel onto the fire. So the trick with fermented foods when you have gut issues is that you make fermented foods that are low histamine and histamine neutral. So you give the gut healing properties without antagonizing the problem. And I will explain this further towards the end of the video, but first let's get into the protocol for exactly how you fix your gut problem.
Jesus. Does it sound complicated to anybody? Once again, You could do what Goji Man says, and, you know, he's got that disclaimer at the beginning of the video because he's not confident that it's going to work. Or you could just eat meat, raw meat.
So first you take the test. We look at exactly what species are in your gut and then select the best antimicrobials and antibacterials that will inhibit these species.
Antimicrobials and antibacterials, a fancy way of saying antibiotics.
The most. These supplements could be berberine, allicin.
Are antibiotics supplements? I didn't think so. Seems a little bit disingenuous here. He really doesn't want to use the word antibiotics. That's what they are. Okay, they come from plants, like all antibiotics, or all antibiotics are from nature, basically, not necessarily plants. But they're all out there in the world. We just find them and we use them. That's what antibiotics are. Well, that's where they come from. But for some reason, the ones that are plant-derived, he has an issue calling them antibiotics. Not very honest there, in my opinion.
Oregano, neem, etc., etc. But we will only know after taking the test. You simply can't guess. Then we look at the results of your digestion and absorption. So is your body sufficiently breaking down the food properly before it gets to the small intestines? And why is this important? Well, like I said in my last video, I'm almost certain you have SIBO. SIBO is normally only driven for two main reasons. Number one, you have bacteria in the small intestines where it shouldn't be, and it interferes with your ileocecal valve, which is the muscle that separates your small and large intestines. So when you have a healthy gut, your stomach will break down the food, it will go through your intestines, and the ileocecal valve will shut, preventing any bacteria colonizing in the small intestines. And as I said previously, the small intestines is where you absorb food, and there should be no bacteria or fermentation here, otherwise you will run into all manner of health problems like you currently are. Now it's...
Did you get all that, peasant? Do all that, and maybe it'll work. Or just eat some raw meat.
really important that you take these tests because you need to know if your SIBO is caused just by having bacteria in the small intestines or whether you have SIBO that is being driven by a stomach acid problem, and let me explain. Now, as many of you are aware, you need very low stomach acid to break down your food properly.
Very low stomach acid. I think he means low pH or very acidic, right? Because that is the truth. You need a pretty strong stomach acid to break down your food, right? So it seems like one of the problems could be that Vegetable Police has his stomach acidity isn't as low as it should be. It's not as strong, right? Which is why he's having problems breaking down these foods and maybe controlling some of this bacteria, right? Because acid will, well, kill a lot of bacteria if it's strong enough anyway. Now, there's a good chance that the reason why he has low stomach acid, if that is the case, is because plant foods are alkaline. Animal foods, in general, are acidic. Some are neutral. Fats tend to be neutral. But as a general rule, plants are alkaline. Animal products are acidic. Now, I know that if somebody has acid reflux, right, or very, very acidic stomachs, one of the things that doctors recommend is eating alkaline foods, right, to bring that acidity down. So could it be that someone on a vegan diet has low acidity in their stomach because they're eating highly alkaline foods? Makes sense, right? We're not meant to eat all these plants, people. They mess up our gut. Even all these health organizations that push fiber, they recognize that you should only eat a little bit of fiber. There's whole websites dedicated to stomach and gut problems when switching to the vegan diet, telling you to cook your vegetables because you're not designed to break down and digest high quantity of raw vegetables. Raw vegans, you're just not designed for this because it will lower these alkaline foods, especially in their raw form, which makes them very hard to digest, unlike meat, which is actually very easy to digest if you have good acidity in your stomach, right? You've been lied to, people. Meat is very easy to digest. Raw meat. Not processed meat, even though that's probably easier anyway, right? if you overload your stomach with these alkaline plants, you're likely to screw up your gut.
If you don't, then undigested food will simply enter your small intestines and make the ileocecal valve and the SIBO problem a lot worse. So we take the test to...
So if your stomach acids are low, right, because let's say you've been eating a very alkaline plant-based diet for a while, a lot of undigested food ends up in your small intestine, trying to speak like a Brit with a funny face. Well, that makes your SIBO a lot worse, right? Small intestine bacterial overgrowth.
Understand this process. Otherwise, again, we are simply playing guessing games. So we have looked over the test results and we can see that you have SIBO, candida, and maybe some parasites. And then we choose,
Hypothetically speaking,
a number of different supplements that will help kill all of this off.
supplements. Is that why we take supplements? To kill bacteria? Is that why we take supplements? Why is he calling them supplements? Just call them what they are, bro. They're antibiotics. They kill bacteria, right? Because they're antibiotics. How about some honesty, Goji Man?
We have looked at your digestion and absorption and can see whether your gut is breaking down your food properly. And if not, then we simply supplement to bring up your stomach acid levels. So that's step number 1 and 2. So for step number...
Supplement to bring up your stomach acid levels, right? Because you've been eating all this alkaline food. You need these supplements on a vegan diet to be able to digest this food properly that you weren't designed to digest.
From your test results, we
Not in a large quantity.
look at your salicylate and oxalate numbers. It may be that salicylates are not your major problem, just oxalates, or it may be that both of them
Salicylates, oxalates, right? They come from plants. They're bad for you. Spinach.
are equally as problematic. So before we start supplementing to kill off the bacteria, we would put you on a low
Supplementing to kill off the bacteria.
FODMAP, low histamine, low oxalate, low salicylate diet for a number of weeks, depending...
So we take all these plants out of your diet for a number of weeks and we put you on plants that don't have too much of that stuff, right? Are you hearing what he's saying? We put you on a diet that's low in histamines, oxalates, and salicylates, right? We take these plants out of your diet because we really want you to be vegan.
on the numbers from your test results. Now this is really important that you do this because with oxalates you have to reduce them at 5% per week. If you do it any more than this, then you can create a problem called oxalate dumping, where all of the oxalate stored in your body will be released at once and you will feel absolutely horrific.
All the oxalates stored in your body will make you feel horrific if they're released all at once. Where do you think all those oxalates came from? Plants. Because plants are toxic. Now, I don't know if him eating meat will release, or solely raw meat, which is what he's doing. I don't know if that will release some of these oxalates at some point. I'm not sure. And make him feel like crap. Maybe, but it's something to think about.
This happened to me for 2 weeks and
But there are no oxalates in meat, okay? So he's not going to be, at the very least, he won't be putting more back into his body.
I couldn't get out of bed for having severe irregular heartbeats. So now we have reduced the oxalates,
Severe irregular heartbeats from eating plants.
salicylates and histamines in your diet, and then we go after the bacteria aggressively. Now you do this for 8 weeks and then you look at the numbers again to see how much the SIBO and bacteria have come down. Now if you have really bad SIBO and candida like I suspect you do, then it may take a couple of cycles of supplements to fix the problem.
Couple of cycles of supplements. This sounds like 2 or 3 months of trial and error.
If you want to be super aggressive with it, some people choose to go down the antibiotic route.
Go the antibiotic route. Even though he's been suggesting antibiotics because they're plant-based antibiotics and not as effective, maybe more targeted. I'm not sure. He doesn't want to call them antibiotics, right? Because they come from plants. the antibiotic he's going to suggest, I don't know where it comes from. And maybe it's more of a broad spectrum antibiotic, but because it's called antibiotic, it just doesn't really have that ring to it. You know what I mean? It's something that when people hear antibiotic, they just kind of recoil a little bit, and they wonder if it's really necessary, right? Which is why, once again, when he was mentioning antibiotics that are plant derived, he was calling them supplements, right? This guy's not biased at all, and he's very honest.
Use rifaximin on a prescription from their doctor. Rifaximin is a type of antibiotic that isn't absorbed into the body, and it only works in the intestines, so there is much less chance of you having side effects. That being said, I'm not a fan of antibiotics, but some people just want a quick...
He's not a fan of antibiotics, right? He needs to draw that line. When he was suggesting, like 4 different antibiotics? Berberine, neem, oregano, I forget the 4th one, but they're all antibiotics.
fix. Regardless of whether
So is garlic, by the way.
you use supplements or antibiotics, you have to adopt the dietary approaches, otherwise you will never kill off the yeast and bacteria and they will simply keep coming back. Now, depending on the severity of your SIBO and yeast, etc., after a period of time you will then introduce the beneficial bacteria into your gut.
So you have to kill all this bacteria and then because if you take antibiotics, that's what's going to happen, right? You're going to kill a whole bunch of bacteria. You're going to kill the bad bacteria. You're going to kill the good bacteria. And then you're going to have to reintroduce the good bacteria. But
it has to be done carefully after you have sorted the SIBO problem.
It has to be done very carefully, and he'll tell you why.
Otherwise, you are just adding more bacteria into an area of the small intestines that already has a problem with too many bacteria. Not a good idea. So when we know it's safe to do so, we add in the histamine-neutral fermented foods to help recolonize and crowd out the bad bacteria that is left. And we also focus on healing the gut with L-glutamine and quercetin supplements. Now, another thing that we have to consider is that all of these supplements to kill the bacteria and heal the gut are all made from plants.
Did you get that? All these supplements, as he calls them, antibiotics, they're all made from plants. And
these plants contain oxalates, histamines, and salicylates.
Sounds like a vicious cycle, no? Veganism didn't work for you, buddy? I have an idea. Try veganism. Plants screwed up your gut? Let's cure it with plants. That's what he's saying, except he's designing a very delicate and careful and targeted specific protocol, because, and I don't know if he understands this completely the way I'm going to paint it, but he understands that, well, these plants can hurt you. Yeah, you understand that? So look, once again, the reason why Vegetable Police has gut issues is clearly not the meat, right? Because he started eating meat and his symptoms are gone. 95% of his symptoms are gone. So clearly it wasn't the meat that gave him gut issues in the first place, right? It had, at least in part, something to do with plant foods, right? In great part, I would say. There are other factors like stress or taking antibiotics, drinking, taking, acid reflux medicine, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But if you want to be able to eat plants again and not feel like crap, we're going to have to take out a lot of plants from your diet, and we're going to have to use drugs and antibiotics and bring up your acid levels with supplements in your stomach, and start carefully reintroducing plants into your diet so that your gut doesn't freak out, right? Because plants are healthy. Because plants are great for you.
So you have to be very selective when choosing the correct supplements, otherwise, again, you're just fueling the fire and you will make yourself feel horrific. So that is a very generic overview of the protocol. It's not something that can be second guessed. You need the test results to see exactly what you're dealing with and how you get out of the issue. Otherwise, you'll end up in a vegetable police scenario and you simply have no idea what you're dealing with, and you are just throwing lots of random stuff at a problem and you will just add fuel to the fires. But you have a responsibility to your followers now to help educate them that your health problems are caused by your gut issues and not a vegan diet per se.
Your problems are caused by your gut issues that came from eating a lot of plants, too many perhaps, and not veganism, which is eating a lot of plants. What a bunch of nonsense.
And I've seen some of your comments in which you say you are 85% healed because of the animal products.
I'm pretty sure that says 95%. Yeah? 95%. This guy's not very honest, is he? I think it upsets him, and that's me editorializing. It upsets him that Vegetable Police is almost 100% better. He has to bring that number down a little bit. I hear ya, says Vegetable Police, but I've already made the diet change and I'm 95% better. The test wouldn't have shown us anything. I might still get the test after a few months to see anyways, but it won't show my state of health on the vegan plan. Whatever bugs were in me are dead and I have zero pain, right? He ate raw meat for 2 days and he's 95% better. So it wasn't the meat that screwed up his gut. It was the plants and possibly something else, but definitely the plants have kept him sick.
You have been eating. Maybe you can share some of these protocols with us because I am all ears. The problem for me with what you are saying is when you have SIBO, parasites, etc., and problems with oxalates, histamines, and salicylates, these problems are not fixed or cannot be fixed in a week or two since your last video. All you are doing is reducing your symptoms, and a reduction of symptoms does not.
These problems cannot be fixed, he says, but has he ever cured people with a meat diet, a raw meat diet? Has he ever done that? Probably not. So how would he know if they can or cannot be fixed? They cannot be fixed by his methods, right? Because he's trying to use plants to cause a problem that was very likely caused by plants in the first place. This guy wants this vicious cycle to continue, except, he wants to tailor the approach and make it so specific, and that's not what eating is about. You have to go to these great lengths. If there's a slight imbalance in your gut, which could have been from plants in the first place, or you're eating too many of them, if you have just like the slightest imbalance, the vegan diet's not going to work for you. And the vegan diet clearly didn't work for Vegetable Police. But this guy, even though Vegetable Police cured himself already, he's 95% better eating raw meat. This guy says, let's go the plant route.
That you have healed. Try a bowl of beans and sweet potatoes and then tell me you have healed.
Try a bowl of beans and sweet potatoes and then tell me you have healed, right? So he knows. As soon as you eat some plants, you're going to be in terrible pain. You're going to feel like crap again, right? That's what he just said.
What you are doing is further backing yourself into a corner so that when you do start reintroducing these foods into your diet, your reactions will become more violent. And if this is the case, I really do feel for you for what's about to come in your direction, because I suffered so bad when it happened.
Oh. So, once again, the guy heals himself with meat. Vegetables just made him ill. And this guy is saying, eat more vegetables. But you have to use all these supplements. You have to slowly reintroduce them. You have to do all this thing. It's going to take 2 months, $800. You're going to be going to the doctor, doing all these tests. It's going to take forever. And read my disclaimer, because in the end, it might not work. Seeing as all these cures that I'm presenting to you have the toxins that have made you sick in the first place, quite possibly. But hey, I got the solution for you, buddy. We are not herbivores. We don't have the gut bacteria that the gorilla, this great example that vegans like to use of who we are, allegedly, even though we split from, we went in a completely different evolutionary direction than the gorilla did, something like 2.5 million years ago, or maybe even longer than that. We don't have the gut of a gorilla. Look at a gorilla and look at the gorilla's gut. It's a huge vat that is able to hold large quantities of plant matter, and it has different kinds of gut bacteria that the gorilla sheds when he poops, which is why he eats his poop back to reintroduce that good bacteria back into his gut and help him digest more plant matter. Okay? The gorilla has a much bigger colon than we do. Our colon had shrunk over the millions of years of our evolution, because we switched our diet from a primarily plant-based diet to a primarily meat-based diet. This is why our midsections are small. This is why when we eat plants, we fart, we get the shits, we get diarrhea, we have bloat, we have issues if we eat too many plants or too many raw plants. This is why we can't digest cellulose. We can't. Gorillas can, because they have different gut bacteria and their digestive system is different than ours. So this is why if you want to eat like a gorilla, you have to be very careful. You have to follow protocols. You have to find ways to introduce certain types of gut bacteria, and you have to make sure nothing gets out of whack, out of balance, because you're going to be in pain, you're going to be in trouble. And that's exactly what's happening to these vegans. A lot of them anyway. They're getting very sick. They fart all day. They shit all day. They brag about how many times they shit every day. If you eat an all animal product diet, provided you have the gene to be able to digest milk, or just don't eat any dairy. If you just eat raw meat and eggs maybe, you're not going to have any gas. You're not going to have any bloat. Trust me, I've done it. When you eat, you're not going to feel anything in your stomach. It's as if there were nothing in your stomach. You're going to go to the toilet and it's going to be like 1, 2, 3, done. A roll of toilet paper is going to last you 6 months. Clean. You're not going to have these gut issues. You're not going to have these problems. Now, yes, we're able to digest plant matter, okay, to varying degrees. But that depends on the strength of and the health of your gut, okay? But you have to cook these vegetables very well. You have to put them in blenders. Eviscerate them. You have to extract the juices from them, right? This is what vegans do. You have to process these vegetables heavily. And then still pray you don't have any problems. Or any severe enough problems to make you want to go back to eating like a normal human being. We're not designed to eat this much plant matter. This is why we started fermenting foods like sauerkraut and kimchi, pickles. This is why we started breaking these foods down outside of our stomach, because a gorilla, once again, ferments all this plant matter in his stomach, something that we can't do very well. So we've learned to ferment our food outside of the stomach. We've learned to cook it, process it. If it's vegetables, right? Do all these unnatural things to it, or man-made, if you will, things to the food in order to be able to assimilate it better. Why? Well, because there were points in time where we just couldn't get the kill. we would go out and hunt and there was just nothing available. And we had no choice but to eat plants also. The man healed himself by eating raw meat from eating a plant-based diet. And this fool over here, because he's ideologically possessed, because he's studying plant-based nutrition, that's going to be his job, to design protocol for all these suffering vegans out there to be able to digest this food that they're not designed to digest. That's why he's pushing this insane idea, because that's what he's invested his life into, and that's where his livelihood is going to come from. This is the same phenomenon as doctors, and there are a lot of good doctors out there, don't get me wrong. But doctors out there, they really have no incentive to cure people, because once everybody is cured, they're out of a job. So this is why this guy is pushing veganism, whether he knows it or not. On some level, I think he understands it. The lack of animal protein in his diet screwed him up forever. Maybe even began to mutate his genome. So in some sick way, whether he understands it or not, he wants you to suffer too. Why? Because he has the cure. And you're going to pay him for it. Jesus Christ. I mean, I can't say this enough. Vegetable Police healed himself, essentially. In 2 days, 95% of his problems from eating a vegan diet are gone because he ate raw meat. But Goji Man over here is going to design a plant protocol with his supplements, aka antibiotics, and he's going to slowly reintroduce all these plant foods. And he's going to play with, well, he wants to anyway, he wants to play with Vegetable Police's body. Well, that didn't come off right. He probably does anyway. You know, he wants to experiment on this man because he thinks he has the cure when Vegetable Police already found one. Are you kidding me? Anyway, you know, I didn't study this stuff at the university. University's compartmentalized program that turns people into little tiny cogs in this huge machine. People who can't think outside of the box. People who have these one-track minds, and they're insane. This guy's insane. Veganism didn't work for you, bro? I have a solution. Try veganism. Just be really careful because plants are toxic. Anyway, I know it's a long video, but this had to be done, man. This dude is a fraud over here. Vegetable Police, do your thing, man. Just do your thing.